Aloha. Today I wanted to do a quick video and hopefully keep it quick because yesterday I did a video. Thought it was going to be quick, but ended up being like almost an hour. But this one, I just wanted to speak in reference directly to a question that was brought up inherently from a conversation that I had recently with somebody that I just met in that moment, and we were talking about some heavy duty topics. And one thing that I noticed is that in that conversation there's a difference between individuals who are living in a belief system and individuals who are living in a knowingness, in like a new space. So it's relative to the same kind of vibration that you have when you're completely separated from spirit and moving into letting go of holding on and existing for the pure experience. There's a difference there. The disconnection, separation, colonial program it banks on the separation mode, the disease, the cancers, the destruction, the lack of foundation. So individuals and inherently the collective will need a system to hold on to so they can remain in power, so they can give their power away to an idea. The old system of belief is crumbling, just like politics, the mainstream media, and so on and so forth. Excuse me. The religious programs that are designed to amplify that perspective are imploding and being seen for what they are, from whatever perspective you want to take, from inside the church with all the pedophilia, from the lack of humanity in a lot of the actions that are being revealed for what they are by the system itself, whether it's the broken church or perspectives of the Bible or the Quran or whatever it is. These issues are being addressed by the level of consciousness of this moment, of this particular time. Excuse me. Time in our reality. So things are changing, and I wanted to zoom all the way out and kind of relate it to a question that was brought up that was in so many ways, but the question that I added to this conversation and the inherent perspectives that we were taking is, like, what do we see, or what do I see in the next 10 years? So 10 years ago was 2006 or 2007, whatever. We're right on the cusp of 2017. So 2006, it's a long time ago, and a lot of things have changed from my perspective in relation to the level of consciousness and the information being shared, the conversations, the overall feel of how we are interacting with our reality. From one level, people believing in politics so deeply, people believing in the university system and technology and the future and war, and the way we respond with our reality was from a heavily destructive nature. And that's basically the point here that I wanted to share in the differences between the level of consciousness beings of a knowingness space and the old perspective of belief systems. And you can only create from a destructive mentality for so long because that length of time is based upon the belief systems in that destructive nature. I'll say that again. You can only create from a destructive intelligence or perspective for so long. And that is based upon the belief system, the belief structures of the individuals in that destructive intelligence. That is the worshiping of the self, the service to the self, whether it's on an individual or collective scale. What people are realizing with stuff like even the flat earth model and reconnecting with nature, reconnecting with organic food, and paying more attention to the design of politics, the design of the maritime admiralty system, the legal name fraud, all of these systems that are of a destructive soul enslavement system are being revealed for what they are on the deepest levels, and they are being removed. And you can't undo that stuff. Like there's some information, there's truths that you hear that you can't unhear. There's perspectives that you see that you can't unsee. And that unseeingness is the knowingness. So you can believe something for however long, and another belief system can overtake that, but you're just swapping one belief structure for another belief structure. And you can lose or leave behind an old belief structure because you just take on another belief structure. But when a knowingness comes that is tapped in directly to your genetic truth, then that's a different vibration of experience altogether. And this is what we are doing individually and collectively when we challenge the very system that is directly locked in to our basic human needs, to our creative existence, to our connections, our foundations rooted in nature, in the organic forms of reality outside of the American dream, and we're number one in the military industrial complex and the prison industrial complex. These are all destructive intelligences designed to convince you that this is for your benefit, that mentality is meant for you to believe in, and progress will come. Your blessings will be sent down to you as long as you keep, paying the pastor in the church, keep going to church. And it's emptiness to go into an energy like that, the same energy that people put into politicians and the voting structure and so on and so forth. It's empty because it's not active, it's not rooted in anything real. It's a synthetic form of reality because it's not in every day, it's not in every thought. You're not a Republican or a Democrat in every thought, in every action, in every whatever. So it's something that you have to believe yourself into your reality. Same thing goes for the individuals who go to church every Sunday and then that's it. They're only religious or connected to God or spirit or whatever you want to call it. They're only connected to that energy on one day. And it's like a job. It's not anything real. It's something that you go to and you're a part of, but you're not a manifestation of. You're not existing as that space. So there's a difference there that is the same difference between belief structures and a knowingness. The destructive intelligence and the creative intelligence. And once you get into the understanding of the creative intelligence, then you can more understand the destructive intelligence, and you can understand that both of those intelligences exist within the creative space of existence itself. So the most high creative intelligence allows you to have a space, a realm for destructive and creative intelligence. But if you didn't have the most high creative intelligence to create that platform in the first place, you wouldn't even have the ability to make yourself out to be a king, to have a service of self, to have an experience at all. So that reality has gotten completely out of hand and into this backwards magic that is completely out of balance and of a completely destructive nature. When you understand the separation from nature that humanity has lived on, it's lived in that space for decades, centuries, generations have profited off of the destruction of entire generations of people on the mind control space of the soul, on the mind control space of the mind, and on the mind control space of the body, shutting down layers systematically. How I'm seeing the next 10 years is how I've been seeing and experiencing the last 5 or 6 years. It's been a change. It's been an obvious change. And like I said, you can't unsee some things. You can't unhear things. It's only creating another foundation for you to jump from. But at least this foundation is not broken. The system or the society around you might seem broken. The collective is not going to reflect the individual perspective. Just as the individual perspective is not going to completely reflect the collective perspective, it's going to be a constant, everlasting change and growth. What is happening is that once we reconnect with nature and spirit, we are making those divisions more. We're having an understanding and understanding and overstanding of the situation as a whole, what we are experiencing here now. And we are starting to reconnect with that reality from the inside out, which is different from the forced upon us reality of the outside in, the externalized reality that gets promoted on every level, from politics to the mainstream to the university system. And they tell you to worship physics, they tell you to worship the Big Bang model, worship the monkey evolution program and dinosaurs and NASA and all this heliocentric model. This whole system is an externalized reality to keep you focusing on the destructive intelligence. And when you're in that out of balance reality, then you pass that down to generations. And that's how the slave mind maintains itself. So how you project the future is based upon how you interact in your present moment. And what's happening in relation to how I see the next 10 years is based upon, obviously, my perspective of my present moment right now. Same goes for anybody else. And what I'm seeing overall is that people, when you reconnect with nature, when you reconnect with that which is outside of the mind control program, that which is outside of the agenda of these so-called powers that be, these individuals, these entities that benefit from the destructive intelligence, the service to the self on a collective scale, completely out of balance of, service to others. Obviously, when you have these haves and have-nots on a 99th percentile of experience, kind of lost my train of thought there. Basically, overall, the collective being more informed, even realizing that there's an understanding and overstanding as opposed to just an understanding of your reality. That space allows for actual movement, actual progress, actual knowingness to be activated rather than a belief system to be just accepted. That's the difference. We are activating ourselves when we reconnect with that which is natural, that which is organic. And that's the thing that can't be undone. Once you start rolling that ball, once you start tapping into those roots, you can't undo that. So just as much as that's happening on an individual scale, it's happening on a collective scale. That stuff can't be undone. So an individual who is still caught up in the belief system or the destructive intelligence, who is still subject to that reality, will defend the system a lot of the times unknowingly, because that is who they are. People will defend being a Democrat against being a Republican to the death, because that's who they are. That's their life. That's who they are on the deepest level of their belief systems, which is who they are based upon, those belief systems. But you have people who are connecting to, in their present moment and in the overall, when you connect to your infinite space in your present moment, then you are connecting to the infinite space when you experience your future, when you tap into your so-called past. It completely changes. When he said, this is when a lot of people say that you can change the history and you can change the future from the present moment, because you yourself, the projector and the experiencer, is now different. So seeing an experience from a victimization program 10 years ago is one way to experience your reality, and that's of like a death. It's a downward spiral. 10 years later, you start to soak out the lessons. You start to understand where that fits in your reality, not only from your perspective, but from your own growth. And you can see that same experience from a different perspective. That's a growth, that's a changing of the past, and it's a changing of the future, because you are now a different person. Your roots have healed, your present moment has adjusted, and your future is now being projected from a higher vibration. This is happening individually and collectively when we start to let go of the destructive intelligence of this system that banks. It makes its money off of that separated nature, that victimized nature. So when people ask, like, what do you see in the future? What do you see 10 years from now, 20 years from now? I don't like looking out that far, but I do when I speak to individuals who are of that knowingness space, realize that things are changing so much. 10 years is like 40 years, pretty much. Like, this is how it feels now. 5 years feels like 20 years from now, because of the velocity of how things are changing right now. The very fact that people are noticing the system has zero concern for the connection with nature, the understanding of spirit. And one obvious thing is when you understand that the university system is based upon atheism. It's based upon separation from spirit and a worshiping of the explosion, the Big Bang, the monkey evolution reality, that whole illusion that has been profited from over generations. That's why we have these haves and have-nots on such an extreme scale. The very fact that people are realizing that is that knowingness that can't be unknown. So once that door has been opened, you can't close that door. And from the very fact that people are starting to look into conspiracies, starting to speak about so-called conspiracy theories, is the door you cannot close. And it's based upon the velocity of that consciousness expanding is based upon the individual, how deep they are in that destructive intelligence mind control program, and how much they're going to hold on to it. How much they're going to hold on to it is based upon the peer groups around them and the generation. There's so many things of why, but some of the main ones are the peer groups around them holding on and letting go, and also the genetic codes that are vested in that experience that say, well, we've been doing this for that long. Like when you have generations upon generations of KKK, it's going to be a long time. It's going to be very difficult for family members in that KKK generation lineage to let go of things and start to understand deeper layers of reality, because it's so thick. So another thing to realize is that because that lineage is so thick and the people around them are on such a different reality, it's also easier a lot of the times for some of the kids to see how separated they are, because this stuff has to be learned. When you have another kid, you have to teach them that shit. You have to teach them how to be a little baby KKK until they grow up. And if they're surrounded by people and energies of the collective that are just like, hey man, I'm not messing around with all that garbage. That's some old nonsense. Kids are smart these days. They're smart. They are challenging the system, especially when you have access to all this information. These are all things I'm just adding up to how I perceive the shifting of the present moment that is a projection of how we experience our 10 years from now or 5 years from now. So I'm just throwing this stuff all together so we can see how the old dead system it has no legs to stand on anymore. The only thing that's holding it up is the illusion that we project into our reality based upon our belief systems. So when you have an individual, just as much as I'm coming at it from the most high creative space, realizing that, oh yeah, well, things are shifting on a destructive intelligence and a creative intelligence perspective, so ... will happen, or ... will project itself into our future. You'll still have people rooted in the belief systems of destructive natures based upon this system that is sick and diseased and cancerous. They will project that future and defend it. They will say, no, shit is fucked up, it'll only get worse, and forever they'll stay on that ball. Now, since that world is imploding, it might appear to be worse on some levels, but when you zoom out and see that, like a Donald Trump, you can see Donald Trump from that, oh, shit's just gotten so bad, it's so horrible. On another perspective, you can say, well, it's about time that this cancerous, diseased, racist, completely destructive system is being seen for what it is. And that's actual change, because you can't change anything unless you look at it. Trump is something that people can look at and say, man, this shit's fucked. We are some sick ass people. This is a broken ass system. And if this is the individual that represents this system, which is the best they could do, and then because he's not elected, he's selected, then you can understand that this is, from one perspective, the beginning of the end of one system. But when you have the beginning of the end of one system, then you have the beginning of of another system. And that system is the system that is actually It's the organic system. It's the system of knowingness that is rooted in nature. And it's not about reverse polarization, because this knowingness is of an understanding and understanding of and overstanding of the experience itself, the experience that led up to the empowerment of a destructive intelligence. So it's not like jumping from dropping bombs on innocent people for the military-industrial complex to love and light, which is the design of the New Age agenda, which is how that system is going to try to salvage its illusory power over the masses, is to go from we were bad because we dropped bombs on people, but now we're all about love and light and unity and oneness. It's all about humanity, and look, we're the United Nations, and we're about connecting everybody together. Let's do this. And people are gonna buy into that shit, but that's still all a part of the implosion process, because people will hold that accountable. There's too much information. There's too many people who are connected with these worlds of destruction that there's no way in hell they're going to be able to sell you anything that you're going to believe in, or adopt as your next reality. Some people will, because they're still in that needy sort of vibration that exists in a belief system. In order to activate that reality, you have to believe that it's real. You have to believe that it's for you. You have to believe, like the people who believe Donald Trump is going to do anything for them, the people that believed that Barack Obama was going to do anything for them. It's not about the individual or the system at all. It's about your consciousness as a whole and the collective vibration as a whole, based upon our understandings of this experience as a whole. And that's what's actually shifting our understanding, and at least our challenging of understanding, and overstanding of this experience, which is something that can't be undone. It can't be unheard. It can't be unexperienced. And this is a reflection of what people are calling like awakened or awokeness or something like that. It's from looking at something. Because before you were looking at something, you were being in the destructive mind control program, when people totally invested their energy in only the television and the politics on that world. We were being like intravenously installed by the television and politics, and people are one obvious perspective of the implosion is people letting go of television, seeing television for the ridiculousness that it is, the mind control that is going to go straight up into politics, that's going straight up into the university system, that's going straight up into the military and prison industrial complex, and the colonial agenda as a whole. And it's just a matter of time / consciousness when these systems will completely be a thing of the past, and we start to experience our present moment and our future moments from a higher vibration. But first we have to let go individually and collectively of the old systems, and those old systems have to simultaneously implode. So you letting go is a different movie, is a different story, is a different energy than the system letting go. See, the system will let go when enough people have let go, because they will have nothing else to hold them up, because it's the belief structures of the people that hold the system up. So that's happening. People, you see that people are not voting anymore. People don't give a shit. People are like, all this that is happening in your political scene is a reflection of the level of consciousness of the individuals as a whole. And they got to hold it up with illusions, telling you that you elected Donald Trump, telling you that the voting system still works, telling you that it's real. Like, no, this shit's been fabricated for decades. For decades, they've been manufacturing these presidents and putting them in these seats for you to believe that you're engaged in this reality. It's layers upon layers upon layers of bullshit, and it's meant to cake on this codependent level of distraction and powerlessness of the people as a whole, so they can continue just installing these systems that have zero connection with spirit, simultaneously destroying that which is ancient, that which is directly connected. This is why they can't tell you anything about the pyramids or Machu Picchu, and this is why they tell you that the primitives, the indigenous and aboriginal people were primitive and savage and all that other shit. It's to build themselves up like a bully. It has to beat down a kid, a nerd, call them a nerd and all kinds of other stuff. That's to build themselves up, and because they're empty inside, and they know that who they are in the eyes of other people is based upon lies, illusion, destruction. They have no creativeness. At least the so-called nerd is intelligent and can make something. A bully can only be a bully strong based upon the destruction of somebody else. So they really create nothing. They have no creative energies. They've only maxed out the destructive energies. This is what the colonial system is reaching right now. It's the bully mentality that's being seen for what it is. It's being realized by the collective, by the people who have been believing that they are creating shit based upon destruction. It's not. It's a lie. People that pay their energies into that world are letting go and holding the bully accountable. Not only holding the bully accountable, but saying, look, fuck you overall. This system is not at all connected to anything real. It is based upon nonsense, garbage, cancer, disease, destruction, and a complete separation from nature and spirit. And if I can do that individually, make those connections, activate those connections, then that is the as above, so below. That just means that it's just a matter of time before the collective can make those connections and activate those frequencies. But first of all, we have to let go of the old systems, the old ways, because you can still have a creative intelligence perspective, but still be so overwhelmed by belief systems that you can't. You're still projecting your future reality from the destructive. Oh yeah, this is gonna happen. Oh, this is gonna happen. But if you go deeper, then you'll realize that this is already happening. And it needs to happen. It needs to happen in order to be seen, for the destructive intelligence to destroy itself. This is what it means for you to, like, in order for you to be alive, the old you has to die. So this system as a whole needs to further implode in order for us to find out what it is that we are looking to experience individually and collectively. So yes, the individuals who are still caught up in that balance of knowingness and a belief system and creative and destructive intelligence, but still polarized in the destructive intelligence, like people who are heavily still rooted in like the religious programs will say, well, this is coming and Jesus is coming and is going to destroy all this and it's just going to get worse and so on and so forth. All your reality is based upon something else. There's a deeper space that you can go as well, at the same time understanding where these stories and these energies fit. When you go into that space, you have to let a lot of yourself go, and that's a vulnerable space. It's difficult because you lose a lot of your friends, you lose a lot of yourself, of who you think you are, and you're just floating out there for a while. But in that floating space, your roots will find their foundation. They will find that earth. And that's something real. But we won't be able to do that until we let go of what we hold on to that is from an illusory perspective or an out of balance perspective. So yes, our present moment, our future is based upon how we perceive and experience our present moment. Collectively, how I am seeing our future is based upon how I individually have experienced my transition from who I was, being so separated from even joining the military twice, and then coming out of that reality into a space of reconnecting with spirit, myself, my culture, the people around me, nature, the stars. All of this is happening collectively. It's obvious. It doesn't matter how fast or how slow it's happening. What matters is that it's happening. Because prior to this happening, wasn't shit going on. People were just like, yeah, Obama, woo, he did it. We did it. Because he did it. You did what? He did what? And then when you go from that perspective and realize that that was all on purpose, then you start to realize that the university system is another Obama. The education system, the colonial program as a whole is slavery, is an illusion, is a sick and diseased, cancerous enslavement program. And before that was realized for what it was God. It was the highest energy of the collective experience. So it was the most high. That energy was the most high energy of our level of consciousness at that time. Like when soldiers joined the army at 17 years old. Your highest that you could do is to sign a contract to give your life away for the greater good of your country. So that's the best thing you can do as an individual. But once you start to realize that at that time, at that level of consciousness, but at that time, that's one way to experience your reality. But beyond that is to realize that your very existence outside of the nationalistic, materialistic, colonial enslavement program of the military industrial complex and the prison industrial complex, which is what soldiers are protecting when they join, outside of that is something higher, something deeper, something more real. And this is what's happening individually and collectively. So I understand how people can project a future that says, oh, well, everything's going to be destructive and horrible and all this other stuff. Yes, it is. Because that foundation, that belief structure that you believe in, that you are, needs to fall. It needs to be destroyed in order for something real to manifest into this reality. So yes, for that individual, for that group of people, their world is based upon destruction because they are still rooted in that world. But that's not the only thing happening. Because if you zoom out even further, do you then realize that in order for something real to take shape, that which is an illusion must first disintegrate, be realized for what it is, and let go. It has to be let go. So all these old religious programs, all of these, the university system, the worshiping of politics, the worshiping of the supremacy program and the colonial agenda and that whole, the fiat currency system, all that shit has to be let go. And that is devastating for a lot of people. That is their world being destroyed. And yes, there will be things that will happen as a result of that destruction. But what is beyond that? And truly, why is that happening? And what will we, as the overall collective, start to activate as a result of that destructive intelligence imploding? That's how I see the future. And that's how a lot of people are seeing the future, because of their present moment is being adjusted. Not from a love and light and all this, oh yeah, everything is perfect and awesome and everything is just, this and that. And there's a balance. There's an understanding. The deepest understanding is from the understanding and the overstanding. And that's what people are reconnecting with now. So that's pretty much what I wanted to share with this video, is to expand upon time itself, our projection of our reality, how the times are changing, generations overall, and that the destructive and creative intelligence that exists within the most high creative intelligence, and how people are connecting, reconnecting with the most high creative intelligence by challenging their reality and realizing the illusion as a whole. And that can't be undone. If it's done truly, organically, that's something that can't be undone. If you do it like inorganically, if you just like tell yourself this is oneness and this all this, so that's what the New Age agenda is. That's largely convincing yourself of love and light. You have to convince yourself of that reality. That community is based upon convincing itself of out of balanceness. This is why that New Age community can't look at the other side of the scale, the other side of the world that is not in their present moment experiencing that love and light and all that oneness and all that other stuff. That's just another version of illusion. Just like the individual who is based upon a destructive intelligence doesn't give a shit about anybody else. In fact, they will steal candy from a baby. They will steal. This is what's happening right now. Water, the DAPL, that's all that is. They don't give a fuck about you. Never have. Never will. And people believe that. They worship that as God. That's what happens when you join the military. You worship the people who don't give one fucking shit about you with your life. But it's changing now. People are realizing that exists. And it's gonna hurt. And it will manifest in many different ways. But at the same time, people are also doing some very deeply connected and wonderful things. It just as jacked up as those vibrations that are imploding are, you have people who are activating some really deeply beautiful things that are happening. And that's real. So that's pretty much what I wanted to share with this video. So yeah, thank you for joining me, and until next time, from all my relations, peace, love, and harmony.